This video is on Chapter 12, Managing Information, from the Management for Church Leaders, Volume Number 1 Training Manual. In this chapter, we're going to focus on one resource that's often overlooked, and that's information. Many times, people just assume that information is always going to be available, but some information has to be gathered and collected. So in this chapter, we're going to talk about the importance of managing information and why information is an important resource for ministry and church leaders. Like every other chapter, you begin by looking at the instructions at the beginning, make sure you understand the purpose, some of the key points. Then we want to talk about the scripture, and then we also want to begin with a question, get them into groups of 3 or 4, and have them ask the question why managing information is important for ministry. This chapter shouldn't take as long as other chapters, and because it's the last chapter in the manual, by this time many people are tired, so you can go through this chapter pretty quickly. When we talk about the importance of managing information management is really about having information at your fingertips when you need it, and knowing that it'll save you time, not having to look for information, or it can help improve your decision making. It also is great for your planning process. So in this opening section, we talk about 5 reasons why managing information is so important for the church leader. Next, we talk about some principles of information management, and we talk about collecting and storing only the information that you want or need. And it's also important to note that information will age very, very quickly. And I like to do an illustration in the class, and I just have people raise their hands if they've changed their address in the last year, or they've changed their cell phone number in the last year, or their email address. And what you'll find, there's always about 10 to 20% of the attendees that this is true for. So what it's showing you is that information ages, and you have to update it at least once a year to make sure that it stays current. Then we talk about some other aspects of managing information, about how to store it and having a plan and having someone actually manage the information. These are just important principles to go over so that you have a good process for managing information in your ministry. Finally, we talk about the process of managing information at the end here, and we give 6 steps on how to manage information. You know, it always begins with determining the information you want and putting together a plan. And so it's important that you go through these steps and make sure that the people understand how to develop a plan for managing information. Which leads us to the exercise for this chapter, which is how to develop a information management plan. And basically it's just documenting what information is needed, where you're going to get it, who's going to collect it, who's responsible for it. So the exercise just goes through that process so a church can kind of write down some of the information needs it has and how it's going to go about getting that. The exercise should take maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Again, since this is the last chapter in the training, that's something that you may want to have them take home and work at a later time if you want to, if they're just too tired or too worn out from all the training to do that. But just know that you can allow maybe about 15 minutes for this exercise.